Ready, Pro Tem?
Oh, I know the wrap. The wrap is so good.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for the Board of Mayor and Alderman for Monday, October the 26th. We'll do the roll call.
Yes. Mayor Noes.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks.
Here.
Alderperson Almacher.
Here.
Berry.
Present. Here.
Blackwell. Here. Dunn. Here. McGee. 7 present.
We have a quorum. This time I'd like to call to the podium Reverend Ricky Wade for our invocation and pledge of allegiance. We'll all please stand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let us pray. Gracious God, you are just and holy in all of your ways. You are our grantor of wisdom, goodness, and patience. We ask that you would give us wisdom. Give wisdom and patience and guidance to the leaders of our community so that their decisions would be just and right, so that we would be a people free and that we would be a people enabled to prosper and grow. Watch over us and guide us in all of our ways and keep us in your way. For it is in Christ's name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Wade. At this time, we had intended to have an award that you see on your agenda, an award for excellence in risk management. That award is going to be postponed. The plaque was not available to do tonight, so we'll do that at next meeting. But we do have a special presentation, and that's from the Tullahoma Sports Council. At this time, President Jimmy Bratcher will make a report from the Sports Council as his consideration for the Board of Mayor and Alderman making funding available to that council. So, Mr. Bratcher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought I'd give a little bit of history of the Taloma Sports Council, because I know several of you were not on the board when it was started. We organized in 2017. I believe our first community meeting was November of 2017. In January 2018, the Taloma Sports Council was formed as a committee of the city of Telhoma. About 9 months later, I believe it was in September, we had a significant donor that donated $100,000 to help perpetually fund the Hall of Fame that we had created. And it was decided then that we ought to form a 501c3 organization and break away from the city of Telehoma. Since then, we've had 3 Hall of Fame banquets. Our third one's coming up in February. We've done a lot of things for the city of Telehoma. One of our initiatives was to bring tournaments, sporting tournaments, back to Telehoma. Back, most of you were too young, but back in the day, there used to be 120 teams that would come in here on a weekend and play softball. And those things have gone away. But I go to tournaments. I was with one this weekend at Cane Ridge in Nashville, and there's teams playing all over the state of Tennessee, but not at our fields. And so our goal is to bring them back here to Telehoma, support our restaurants, support our hotels. I've already worked with several other of the tournament directors, and I've got several of them on board to bring in tournaments to Telehoma. Our first one, we hope, is going to make this Sunday at Grider Stadium, and it's our test case. Some of the things that we've done with the money that we've been allocated over the years is doing the banquet. Of course, that's our biggest event, and I encourage all of you to attend that in February. This year it's going to be February 6th on a Saturday night. Another thing is we've put in batting cages at Wagner Park. There's 2 batting cages there now in use that people are using. We're going to add 2 more at Johnson Lane. We have the nets already. We just have to get the concrete done. And with the COVID virus, it has shut us down basically this year. We do an annual cakewalk, which is a fundraiser for my deceased wife. We have helped Alderman Blackwell facilitate the funding of the Jefferson Street project through our 501c3 organization. There's several things that we've done. One of the things that I'm interested in and I want to promote, and that is restrooms and concession stand at Johnson Lane soccer field. It's kind of an embarrassment to what's going on there right now, and we desperately need to fund that. Our board consists of 9 voting members. They're Chad Hatfield, Pat Welch, Matt Jernigan, Hank Jordan, Cheryl Twitty, Ginger Ennis, Scott Barler, Dale Ossip, and myself. We have 3 non-voting members, which is John Olive, Kurt Glick, and Daniel Berry. We meet once a month. We use your funds to try to better the citizens of Telehoma. And I hope that you'll continue to allow our funding and approve our appropriation. Any questions?
Any questions from the board for?
I have a question. So you're talking about recruiting tournaments in. What are factors that are making it more difficult to recruit tournaments, and if there are factors? And I'm assuming there are.
Well, the tournament directors tell me that the cost of the field rentals are so high that they will not bring tournaments to Telehoma.
Our field rentals.
Our field rentals, yeah. And the cleanup responsibilities and some of the things, the tournament directors want to be able to come in, host their tournament, and then walk away. And that's what they're doing. They're doing it at Manchester, Smyrna, or all over Murfreesboro, Nashville, Columbia, Lewisburg. I visited most of those parks over the last 5 years, and that's the way we're going to be able to fund our facility. We need to do some things at Wagner Park to make it a better park. I'd encourage that at some point too. But the number one funding right now to me is the bathrooms and concession stand at Johnson Lane Soccer Complex.
When you guys say you work on that, does that mean you help fund it, or do you work with Kurt to do the project management? What is?
It's just in meetings and priorities and setting priorities and things like that. And most of those things occurred 2 years ago. We were actually told that once the police station was finished, any available funds would go towards funding that, and I understand that there are probably not going to be any funds for that. But I want to make sure that that stays on your mind, that needs to get done.
Have you had a quote of any kind as far as how much that might cost, or? Okay, that's fine.
No,
Just
no.
okay.
I've talked to Kurt about it, and those numbers range from a few $100,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Okay.
depending on what you want to put there.
Okay.
Manchester just put one at their soccer complex there on Highway 55.
Mhm.
And my understanding, it was like $125,000 or something like
It
that.
looks good too.
It was like prefabbed, and it was kind of a neat route that it'd be neat to go look at.
Jimmy, you talked about back in the day when we did host, I was a member of the Lions Club back then, when we ran those, we pushed those. And you have to have enough members to make that happen. And I think what happened is, all the service clubs nowadays are struggling to attract younger members. So you have all us gray-haired people doing most of the work, and, we've lost our Christmas tree sales in town, and there's some different things that have fallen to the wayside that we used to do quite a bit. And the Lions Club was a big push of those softball tournaments, and that was probably back in the, probably phased out in the mid to late 90s. But I can remember that was a big draw. There was tournaments a lot. We were known for that. And, if you could generate interest and have, I don't know if the directors of those events now, you know, are, if they run them different than they did 20 years ago, 25 years ago, probably, you know. I know there's probably money is an involvement, you know, and whoever's directing or organizing those, they're making some money some way, because if you're telling me that we're charging too much for the fields of use, then I know everything's about money, really. So surely we could, you know, help that out somehow. But you know, some of it's the logistics of putting it on. I doubt these people come in. You know, how many fields do we have over here at Wagner Park? About 4, something like that.
We have
4?
3 at Wagner Park.
Okay.
2 Little League and a Babe Ruth field.
Well, the Babe Ruth field was mostly the one that they were using.
Well, we have a 4th field that we use kind of as a practice field.
Yeah.
At some point needs to be completed, put up a temporary fence or
Yeah,
something.
but, you know, bringing them back would be nice if we could support, you know, logistically. I don't know if it's just us cutting the field rentals or, you know,
Well,
what.
one of the things that we came up with was for the Telhoma Sports Council to run the concession stands, to generate enough revenues to help fund the fees
That's
for
what I
the
was
tournament directors. That way we're accomplishing, the city still will get their fee. We get some concession stand proceeds to help put money back into the organizations or build fields. One of the other things I want to do is finish the 4th field at Johnson Lane, the softball complex over there. I'd like to get that done at some point in time too. And I know it's going to take us time. And the coronavirus has not helped us. You know, we lost our Independence Day cornhole tournament that we do every year. So we've lost about $18,000 in funding this year.
Thanks for what you do for our community. Appreciate it.
Alderman Berry?
2 things. One, I'd like to go on record and say I didn't have gray hair until I joined the board.
Neither did I.
I just called my guy yesterday and said, I got to get it cut. I can see him now. Second, thank you for coming and answering these, and also asking me to be on that board. I learned a lot. They're doing a lot of stuff that I didn't know about, and kind of the origins and that. I'm looking forward to some of the stuff coming up. Do we have any tournaments coming up?
At one Sunday.
There is one Sunday.
Yeah, I'll know probably in about an hour whether it's going to make or not.
And will you need volunteers?
We always need volunteers.
So anybody watching or anybody here who could use help?
Call me. I'd be happy to put you to work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one comment to make. So I'm not sure if you've seen some of the preliminary layouts for some things that we could be looking at for Wagner Park or Johnson Lane. But I personally have had a conversation with Ms. Moody and Kurt Glick about phasing that out and hopefully getting some bathrooms and some concession stand buildings down there. And so hopefully that will be coming down the pipeline in the near future for you guys.
So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Any other question, any other comments for Mr. Pratchett? Mr. Pratchett, thank you for coming tonight, and there'll be another agenda item on that we'll be addressing a little bit later that you'll be interested in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll have any comments from citizens that would like to speak to the board tonight. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Fran Gray, and I'm proud to represent Alzheimer's Tennessee. 37 years ago, when then President Ronald Reagan was in office, he declared that November would be observed as Alzheimer's Awareness Month. And little did we know what would happen to him. And to this day, we are having so many people diagnosed. Almost every 65 seconds, someone is diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or some form of dementia. In honor of them and the work that's being done to care for them, their families, and the research that is happening, we here in Telehoma and the area are going to be observing Alzheimer's Awareness Month. I have with me a purple pumpkin. Some of you who know me know that I like to reuse everything, and so I'm suggesting that when you're finished with your jack-o'-lantern, you can spray it purple and turn it around, and it will make a nice purple pumpkin to have on your porch in observance of Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Alzheimer's Tennessee uses the color purple to represent Alzheimer's and orange for Tennessee. Also, we will have bows available in our office, and we will have a suggested donation of $10, and you can put this on your office door, your mailbox at home. You can fly it from your car, just whatever you can do to help raise awareness for Alzheimer's Tennessee. There are over 150 people in Coffee County alone who are affected by dementia. And with luck, none of us will, but probably several of us in this room will be ourselves, or someone we love will be. So thank you all again for allowing me to speak with you, and just think purple in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. I'm glad you're well.
Thank you. I hope there's no relapse after this meeting.
Okay, this time we'll have reports from our alderman, and then we'll start with Ms. Salmacher.
Okay, past couple of weeks have been pretty interesting for me. So, do want to thank Ms. Moody's responsiveness to the London's debacle, as I have called it on my Facebook Lives, and good news is that business is back up and running, and their outdoor venue is was well and active over the weekend, and I'm not privy to any problems that they may have had. Weather was somewhat uncooperative for both the downtown outdoor venues, but I noticed that Daddy Billy's, they put up an overhang and to protect, and I think that everything still went off without a hitch, so that's great. That's great for downtown Telehoma, and we're proud to hear that. So I did have my first Tourism Council meeting, which was very interesting. There were several people on that. Main speaker was Steve May, I think is his name, from Jack Daniels, talking about how the pandemic has affected Jack Daniels, but the good news is that people who are coming to the region seem to be spending more money per capita than they did previously. So even though we haven't had as many visitors to our area, those who are coming are spending more money. So that's good news. And then I also had my first meeting on the tree board, which is an interesting board for me to be on, Mr. Mayor. I actually had a big tree fall in my yard a few months ago, and to be honest with you, prior to getting onto this board, I was like, cut them all down. It was a headache to deal with, and so the good news is I'm coming back around and I'm learning about the value. Obviously, I knew of the aesthetic value, but of the other values, and big thanks to Lyle Russell for some educational talk as our new forester. And that board has been really educational for me. So I'm appreciating being able to be on that. With that said, I do have something I would like to add to the agenda, or Mr. Mayor, put it on you to schedule a special session with the consent of yourself and the rest of the board. I've ran my campaign on transparency and accountability, and one of those factors is to implement an evaluation tool, number one for our city administrator, and then once we get that into play, number two for our city attorney. Both of them are aware, and we've previously had conversations. I reached out to Ms. Hannah Rogers from MTAS and consulted with her on the best way to approach that. I asked for this to be added to this week's agenda by the deadline last week, and it was basically said that I could ask for it in my alderman's report, and that if there was a consensus that we wanted to talk about that tonight in a discussion, that you guys would have that say so. So at this time, I would like to add a discussion. I don't think it's time we take a vote on anything, but I do think it's important for us to start the discussion. And I had a few things that Ms. Rogers, gave to me about kind of how that systemic process might go if we were to evaluate one and the best way to go about doing that. Just some preliminary thoughts and a few sample evaluations to pass around and let you guys look at so that you guys can think about that going forward.
Ms. Umbacher, would it be satisfactory with you if we added that as an item under our new business at the end of the meeting?
It would. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for serving on that board. I think that'd be good for all of us for you to participate in that.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Perry.
Since we last met, I had a town hall, did a virtual town hall deal, and we talked about the concept I had about neighborhood action coalitions. And TUA, thank you to them as well, because they reached out and we did a short little interview and got to talk about it. I don't know where it aired, but it went somewhere, I hope. But that was interesting, and I'm going to talk more about that, and it's something that I'd like to involve the rest of the board in and have some discussions with. I'll talk with Ms. Moody on how to facilitate that, and maybe we tag it on us, or just disseminate some information out. But kind of the idea is just to help build stronger sense of community and involvement, and help cultivate and grow some leaders, the next generation of leaders in the community. I also attended my first sports council meeting. I'm glad to be a part of that board, and I'm looking forward to some great things from them. I just got a message. So it aired last Wednesday. I would support a study session over performance evaluations, but I think I would want it as kind of a broader discussion to kind of set some governance frameworks and some I don't think that we just jump in and start evaluating without, but we'll have that discussion later. But I would support a larger discussion on that, as well as how do we orient it to some larger city goals, citywide goals, and planning in that sense. And we've talked about that before, and so that's my consensus on that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Alderman Berry. Alderman McGee.
Well, the last week itself has just been different for my family. As most of you know, we did experience a loss in our family, which we're doing okay, and I do thank you all who have reached out and given us your condolences. So thank you very much on behalf of the McGee family. But despite that, I have been a little busy, just keeping myself busy, trying to keep my mind occupied. I did have my first meeting with Telhoma Housing Authority. They made me feel very welcomed. I learned quite a bit at that meeting. I have met with some of the community members at Jefferson Street Park, and just to ask them if they had any concerns or issues. And they did have a couple of concerns, and I'll email those to Kurt Glick. And I also delivered food boxes on this past Saturday, farmers to family food boxes. We delivered quite a bit of those. I did attend the Board of Education meeting. I had a tour of Telhoma Utility Authority, which I thought was neat. I was mostly excited about the wastewater facility. That was really neat. And also on Saturday, I was the judge of the pumpkin carving contest that the kids did at the Telehoma Art Center, which we have some very creative children in our community. And today I donated some arts and craft supplies to Telehoma Daycare. I'm still finalizing the trunk or treat event that's going to be held at Jefferson Street Park on the Cook Street entrance. We've had quite a few sponsors, which I'm very thankful and grateful for. And then just to remind everyone that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and there's 1 week left in this month, so you still have time to go get your mammograms. And that is my report.
Thank you, Alderman McGee. Alderman Dunn.
Oh, you skipped Jimmy?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Man, I guess he's not behaving over there. Okay, anyway. I had a wonderful week. We just had our very first TEDx Telehoma. In fact, I brought some programs for y'all if y'all want one. But just as a reminder to the folks at home, this was not an event that was sponsored by the city. This was just something that I've been very passionate about for a while, and we just had a lot of fun. So I hope y'all come next year. But now it's time to do more good works. I applied for a grant this morning with the TVA for Go Green in a partnership with the Hands-On Science Center and with the Parks and Recreation Department. And then Winston and I have some work to do with downtown Tullahoma, maybe do some events later this winter. So busy. We're just having a good time. That's all.
Very good, and so we'll commend you on TED Talks. They were very, very good.
Thank you. Yes, I enjoyed it.
Alderman Blackwell.
Oh, Lord. Here we go. So, it's been a busy past couple weeks. First thing, I talked with Project Backboard specifically about Jefferson Street Park, and they honestly told us that we were kind of on the right track at this point to keep doing what we're doing, and they gave me some tools and thoughts on what types of materials we need to actually execute what they normally do on our own, because we are so far into the process already, which is awesome to hear because, you know, then we can actually move faster. Went to the Women Impacting the Community banquet, and I just want to say congratulations and thank you to all the women who were honored that day. There's so much good work going on there, and it was truly amazing to see so many women who contribute to our community in so many different ways. Had our Community Council for Diversity and Inclusion bylaws, final bylaw meeting, and we have sent those to Mr. Worsham. He sent us some edits, and now they're back to Stacy, and we're going to send them back to him as well. I'm hoping, hope that we'll have those ready for the next board meeting. So that is my goal. I also have been working on a grant with Stacy Lowe, who, thank you to Ms. Lowe very much, that I'm hoping to put together and hopefully have to you guys for the next board meeting as well. School board meeting went really well. I have notes on it somewhere. But mainly they're talking about the drainage problems in the tracks, band room doors, field house flooring, and lots of shout outs to sports ball teams that I am not good at sports. So that made my son happy. One thing I wanted to talk about is I'm on the board of the Tullahoma Daycare Center. I'm the vice president of the board there, and usually we always at this time of the year are doing our tour of homes. So just this is a heads up for the community that it's going to look different this year than what it normally does. We're working hard on it and trying to still make a really cool event, for lack of a better word, that's not an event for everybody, but that's in the works. I attended the Community Development Block Grant meeting. We had a planning commission, and I want to say how much I appreciated Alderman Dunn's TEDx this weekend. You know, the past 4 or 5 days, I kind of took a step back from alderman work and tried to figure out, spend some time with my family and recenter myself. And there's a couple quotes that hit me while we were there, and I don't know for all of you guys that were there what you thought of it, but there was the woman Tamara Milford, and she said, "Love is infinite. You can make more if you need it." And to me, that, especially with COVID right now and how disconnected we all feel sometimes, it stuck with me. And then, of course, my dear friend Stephen Hovatter said something that, in all honesty, is what I've been talking with my daughter about, because she can sometimes get really upset about things, and I sometimes don't know why. And so what he said is, when I encounter someone with a different experience from my own, and in my mind, from a different response than what I expected, that's precisely the moment for me to become curious, to find out what their motivation is, what their concerns are, so that we can best communicate with each other. And then finally, Well, that was funny, but I'll read that. I was on Channel 5 past Thursday night, and it was actually a very cool experience because for some reason I was put up there as part of a panel watching the debate, and this panel ranged from new voters to old voters to all different ranges of the political spectrum. And what I took away from it, the most important thing I took away from it, is that everybody in that room, though they all differed so much, they all had the same goal of wanting to build our community and making sure our families thrived. And I just challenge our community right now to keep that in mind, that everybody has good intentions at heart. We all want the end goal, and working together and listening to each other, truly listening, not listening to respond, but listening to understand is what we should be doing with each other right now. That's it. Oh, and then one joke, if you want a joke.
Good report.
It's the
Mayor
funniest
Pro
joke.
Tem Blacks.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to go last as the alderman that represents the city of Tullahoma. Since our last meeting, I had a Zoom meeting with the Arts Council last Thursday. We're bringing forward a couple of people to serve on that board, Tony Williams and Josh Cole. Hopefully y'all will support them. They'll do a fine job. Things are getting back on track over there. I think that there's a lot going on. Assassins is a play that's being put on at South Jackson Civic Center October 29th through November 1st. There's 4 performances. There's a lot of stuff going on at the Taloma Fine Arts Center too for Halloween-related stuff. Sorry about your loss. It's never easy to lose a family member. And Fran, you talked about dementia, Alzheimer's. My father passed away nearly 2 years ago with that. It's a horrible disease. Thank you for what you do for that in the community. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It's hard to see them physically there and their mind go away. So, appreciate that. Always like to remind everybody to shop Telehoma. Keep your money in town if you can. Next, I'd like to comment to the members of this board. First, there needs to be there was something published in the Tullahoma News this last weekend. If you call me out or call one of the board members out, I'm going to respond to that. There was something that was published that said all the board members were contacted about appointing Ms. Cernovia as an alderman. That is not true. They did not contact me. I don't know if they contacted the rest of the board. So, I hadn't had to set the record straight on this board. I'm serving my 12th year. I'm the senior member of this board. I came on this board, I ran 13 years ago and got beat by Coach Mathis and Mike Stanton. And at that time, there was a lot of volatility on the board. And some of the reason I ran was to try to bring civility and normalcy back to this. I would sure hate for us to get back that way. And I would encourage everybody on this board to be civil, to be nice. This is a small town. This is not the national stage. This is not even a state stage. We go to church together, we go out to eat together, our kids go to school. So I would encourage, let's try to chill on that kind of stuff. Because I sure don't want to go back to what it was 15 to 20 years ago. There's some of y'all in this room that understand what I'm saying. And if y'all on the board do not understand what I'm saying, then go back and research that and to see how it was. And it was very contentious. And, that just makes me sort of nauseous. And I pray that we can just be a normal board. We don't have to agree on everything, and I don't think we should. There's some things that, for a long time, I was the lone no voice on that board up there. And some of that was growing pains and being a freshman alderman. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and you have to put your time in and study it, which is good. But with time, you learn when to speak and when not to speak. After my first meeting on this board, many, many moons ago, I was running my mouth like a woodpecker. I mean, just brrrr. I came home and my wife said, "I'll never watch another board meeting." I said, "Why?" She said, "You talk too much. You don't listen." And, you know, and I didn't know I was doing that. But, so I wrote on a 3x5 card that I kept with me forever. And I wrote it, and I would pull it out, and it said, "Think before you speak." Sometimes when it comes out of your mouth, you can't ever pull it back, and you hurt feelings. I never want to hurt anybody's feelings on this board if we can help it, because we have to work together. And if we can work together, that makes our community better. So, you know, if we're at odds all the time, or there's yeah, I don't think that's in the best interest of the city of Tullahoma. And I don't think any of us ran not wanting that to be our number one goal. So I know this is a little bit preachy tonight, but, you know, we need to work together. We need to think about it before we say something or go online. You know, social media is out there easily, and once it's out there forever. So, you know, and I've tried to tell younger people, they don't, you know, younger than even the people on this board, you know, they post stuff and that's forever. You know, somebody can pull that back forever and forever and forever. So, you know, you might think it before you hit enter or send, sleep on it before you send it. And that's all I have to say. I appreciate y'all's time and thinking about what I said.
Mr. Mayor, may I clarify one thing since Jimmy brought it up? When I was speaking to that exact quote that you said, there was a phone call made. And there was one made to several members, and then there was also another phone call made, and I won't mention because it was somebody on this board that called and said, "Hey, my friend is going to be putting in for this position, just wanted to let you know." And it was not the person that got the nomination, but every single one of us got that phone call. And that was one, and then there was another phone call. So whether or not you were a part of that second batch of phone calls that was going on, I understand completely, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody on this board, but my constituents have asked me to be a little more vocal, and those who voted for me have reached out and said, "I like what you're doing. In the interest of transparency, would you please keep it up?" So it is never my intention to disrespect any member of this board. So please don't take it that way. But just like as two lawyers would battle in the courtroom sometimes, and we have different things that we want to fight for and be zealous, sometimes we have to do that. And I do want diplomacy to be involved, but I think in the interest of transparency, we need to do it at the board meetings as much as possible. I will, you know, try to collect my words more carefully moving forward, and I want to apologize to any member of this board that I have upset or offended.
Thank you.
Okay, time for the mayor's report. I too attended TEDx talks. They were very, very good, inspirational, eye-opening, cause you to look at things you might not look at otherwise. Very good. Also attended the Planning Commission meeting. Had a very, very active Planning Commission meeting that went on for an extended period of time, but it was all very, very productive. We have lots of building going on, lots of plans for building going on in our city. Something that our city can look forward to, seeing our available housing grow. So that was good. Airport board meeting, good meeting there. Activities going on at the airport with new business coming into the airport there. So that was a very good meeting. Okay. I know that all of you on your desk had a letter that came from a citizen in town. I received a copy of that letter as well. For the benefit of those in the audience, I'll share this letter that I received. Dear Mayor Norris, as a leader of our wonderful city, please use your influence to strongly encourage all citizens to comply with the Center for Disease Control, CDC guidelines for reducing the spread of COVID-19. Since Dr. Bill Sanders gave a presentation about COVID-19 prior to the most recent board meeting, I'm sure you know that the facts of wearing masks, practicing social distancing, and washing, that does reduce the number of hospitalizations and even deaths. I've lived in Telhoma for over 60 years and have often highly praised our city and those who live here. I do not remember any other time that I've been so disappointed by the lack of response by our citizens for a simple request as wearing a face mask. One of my sons is a scientist and has several times expressed his frustration that medical personnel and scientists know how to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Many people just don't do their part to help. So please tell everyone that wearing a face mask helps protect your family member, your friend, or your child's teacher. So don't be among those who say, it's my right not to wear a mask. It's no worse than the flu or the virus will go away. Only to later wish that you'd worn a mask and when a loved one is very ill or dies from COVID-19. Respectively submitted from a citizen. You have the names on your letter. So those I spent most of the latter part of last week responding to a half a dozen phone calls, including this one that came across my desk of that same tenor. So I simply share that with you. Okay. At this time, we'll have a report from our city mayor. Our city attorney.
It's like, no thanks on that.
No,
You're gonna turn it over to
I'm just handing it off.
Tag
You have been elected.
Well, sort of as
Acclamation.
a sequel to Ms. Allmarker's statement, transparency is something that lawyers can never be involved in, because all the things that we deal with must be confidential for a myriad of reasons. So that a lot of times you may think that I'm not doing any work at all, but I'm doing a lot of things for the city. And as some of you all know, I speak with many of you on an individual basis on issues that arise from time to time. I meet with Ms. Moody. I met with her today. There are a lot of things that are happening in Tullahoma today. I do attend the Planning Commission meetings, and there's a lot of exciting things in the mill. Again, even in light of and it's sort of in derogation of this COVID that's affecting us right now. The developers of the Walmart property have some developers involved in some things that may result in some development out there. I'm working with them. I attended the Economic Development Committee meeting today that the mayor sponsors every month. There are things that are happening in Telehoma now that they're not ripe for announcement, but very soon there will be. So the town's still on a roll, and we're still doing things. We're still working on, with the county attorney and the clerk and master of the Chancery Court, working toward a delinquent property tax sale that's very detailed and very complicated. There's an awful lot of technical things and hoops that we need to jump through, because as you know, every time the legislature meets, they enact about 1,000 new laws, and we have to deal with those every year. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I often tell everybody I know, we don't have to worry about the Chinese conquering us. We're going to strangle ourselves with our own rules and regulations. And that's the situation that we have. There's also the possibility of some development north of town that Ms. Moody and I are working on now. Hopefully at the next board meeting we'll have an announcement about that. Do you have any questions about anything? Okay, thank you very much. Happy Halloween.
City Attorney.
Happy Halloween.
Report from our city administrator.
Thank you. I have several items. I wanted to share with you that Ms. Golden and Chief Williams have been working with a company called Carfax, and they are looking at using Carfax as a way to make accident reports more available to the public online. And it's a free service, would not cost us anything to use them. And I know they've done a lot of due diligence to make sure that the records remain as confidential as as they are supposed to be under the law. So just wanted to make you aware that'll be another option. We won't take away the option of people coming here in person to request records, but we will be able to make them available online. The other thing, I know the leaves are changing colors and falling, and so starting November 2nd, we will start leaf collection routes in the city. Also wanted to share with you, Public Works and our city engineer have been working on collecting donations of right-of-way to support the Avoca Road Kings Lane sidewalk project. And I think we have most of those in. There's a few remaining pieces we need to get. And then we'll start preparing easements, and I'm sure Mr. Worsham will help us with that. Also wanted to share with you that we just received notice that we will again be receiving the Distinguished Budget Award from the Government Finance Officers Association. I know this is something like our 23rd year, I want to say, receiving that award, and we'll recognize Ms. Wilson and her staff at another meeting. Also, just I wish she's taking a vacation this week, but I wish she was here to recognize she's done a lot of work putting in our request for the Tennessee CARES Act money and was able to submit a reimbursement request for the full amount. So I'll be letting you know, but that could be a wonderful thing for us to receive that reimbursement. Also, I wanted to share with you a couple of items from this month's Planning Commission. We did receive an annexation petition. It hasn't been before the Planning Commission just yet, but we're working on the development of a plan of services for 12.5 acres off of Avoca Lake Road near Copperas Creek Road. And so you will see that as we're putting that together, it's non-contiguous, very close to the city limits, though, if you're familiar with the Hunters Ridge subdivision. We do have to develop an interlocal agreement with the county. So that's something that, in addition to the plan of services, we'll be working on that, and then it'll go to the Planning Commission and then the board. We approved 4 site plans, so just to tell you, there's a lot of activity, a couple of new gas stations coming in to the community, and a new accessory building for a business, and then a new 12-unit condominium on East Moore Street. Also, a new subdivision plat for commercial lots being created at the corner of Lakeway Place and Cedar Lane. I think you know Cedar Lane is really developing now, so I think we'll see more and more activity out there. And then last, I just wanted to share with you, you've heard, I think over many months, we've been talking about the Tva Innovation Academy, and that Telehoma was one of 9 communities in the TVA region that were selected for participation in this new program. We were encouraged to develop an innovative solution for Telehoma and really push to think about the future workforce and what would be a significant project for Telehoma to help prepare us for the future of work. And we delivered our pitch on October 22nd. The core group was myself, Winston Brooks, Tom Robinson, Shelley Smith representing Motlow College, Nikita Campbell with Jacobs Engineering, Mike Dent with Arnold Air Force Base, and of course Dr. Stevens and Sherry Zimmerman from Tullahoma City Schools. And I think I would like to bring that pitch probably to this meeting, maybe at the next meeting, so you could see it. It's a 5-minute quick pitch. But just in a nutshell, what we were able to come up with was a program, a new curriculum for Tullahoma City Schools for grades 3 through 12, where we would do advanced coding education and teach some new emerging coding languages, as well as simulation, modeling, computer programming. And we think that this could be, we also want to develop an industry council and some other things that make sure our school system and the programs we're teaching stay really closely aligned with the certifications that our industries are recruiting for. Because what we see over and over again is we have these incredible opportunities in Telehoma for careers, and we think that if we can engage students at an earlier age and educate them as to the paths that are out there, we can help keep more of our young talent here, and industries won't have to work so hard recruiting outside the area. And so I love this vision, and Mayor Noes has been talking about it throughout the community as well, that we want Telehoma to be a place where no child has to leave to have the career of their choice. And so I'm excited. I'll share that with you, more about that next meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Moody. I want the board to know what a good job that team that you mentioned did putting that together. Ms. Moody was given a 5-minute slot to make this presentation, and she nailed it exactly 5 minutes. I don't know how she made that happen, but to get a pitch for a grant of that size in 5 minutes was commendable. Good job.
Thank you.
This time we'll go to the consent agenda. We'll remind you that all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion.
Mayor, can we remove number 5 so I can get some clarification on it a little bit? Number 20-112.
Just one moment.
Okay.
Yes, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
There will be no separate discussions of these items unless a board member or a citizen so requests. In which case, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and be considered separately. During the portion of the meetings reserved for comments from citizens as shown on the agenda, citizens may request that the board remove an item from the consent agenda so that discussion may be held on that item. Alderman Blackwell.
Sorry, jumped the gun. Number 20-112.
Add that to the first item to be discussed under new business.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, let me read the caption for the consent agenda items. Item number 2108 is the minutes from the October 12th meeting. Number 2109, we'll set a public hearing for Monday, November the 9th at 5:30 p.m. on an ordinance 1545 to amend the zoning map for the city of Telhoma as it's set forth in the municipal code, which is ordinance number 1392 to rezone 2 parcels at 112 South Collins Street from tax map 127B, Group C, parcels 33.00 and 6.00 from R1 low density residential to C2 general commercial district. Item number 2110, approve an emergency purchase to repair a water leak and related damages to the fire station number 1 in the amount of $8,091.19 for service from Apex Restoration DK1 for Telehoma. Item number 2111, approve the sole source purchase of emergency rescue extraction equipment in the amount of $19,893.49 from Municipal Emergency Services. The only rescue equipment dealer that's certified by the Trust Jaws of Life, that's Hearst Jaws of Life Incorporated, for maintenance and services on the state of Tennessee. We're skipping item number 5, which is item number 2112, which has to do with the purchase of portable radios for police and fire. Item number 2113 is to approve the purchase of a new server in the amount of $18,204.53 for Dell EMC at state contract prices for the Tullahoma Police Department. And item number 2114 to approve the mayor's appointment of Mr. Stephen Worsham and Ms. Ashley Shockley to the Telhoma Tree Board for 2-year terms expiring 2022, expiring October 26, 2022. Item number 2115 to approve the application for the TVA Community Outreach Community Cleanup Non-Matching Grant Programs for up to $5,000 each for each educational program and cleanup events within the Telhoma Go Green communities. That calls for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Alderman Blackwell, Alderman Blanks approve, Alderman Blackwell. Call for the vote. Vote passes 7-0. Moving on to old business. We have a resolution authorizing appropriation for financial aid to the Tullahoma Sports Council.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. We've heard the report from the president of the council. He has the packet in your agenda packet for more details to that, but I think we had asked before we approved this resolution that they come and make the presentation. They did. I think they did a good job. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Call for the vote. 7-0. We'll now go to new business. Item number 2116, consider the,
We were gonna do the other one first.
no, it's going to be on the new
Okay.
business, the last of new business.
Last, I thought you said first. Okay.
First, at the last.
Okay.
Under new business, number item 10116, consider the board's appointment of 2 new members to the Arts Council of Telhoma, Mr. Tony Williams, to fill the remainder of an unexpired term ending August 12, 2021, and Mr. Joshua Cole, to a 1-year term as the representative member for Telhoma Arts Center, expiring on October 26, 2021. Additionally, reappoint all representative members, including Mr. Atticus Hensley from Telhoma High School, Mr. David Mathia of Montlow College, Ms. Colleen Saunders, South Jackson Civic Center, to a 1-year term expiring October 26, 2021. Your motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Black and Alderman Dunn, second.
Blackwell.
Yeah.
Okay, one of you.
One of us.
Okay.
Can I ask a random question? Why is this
Time
under
for discussion.
Why is this under new business and not under why consent? Because the other one is under consent.
So I can answer that, Mayor. These appointments are made by the board, and so I wanted to give you the opportunity to discuss, whereas if I had put it on the consent, there is no discussion, and then also the item that's on consent is the mayor's appointment.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. Okay, that's all.
Any further discussion? Call for the vote. That resolution passes 7-0. Next item under new business, to consider the approval of a project in the amount of $21,700 with surveillance to provide capture-based property conditions report and assessment on the Telehoma building at 201 West Grundy Street. That's where we are today. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We've got a motion from Mr. Alderman Blackwell and a second from Alderman Blanks. For that discussion, I'll open that discussion briefly, but I'd ask Ms. Moody for some background.
Okay. I would say almost since the beginning of working on the new Tullahoma Police project, I've heard repeatedly, what about this building? And so tonight, I was hoping that I brought you something you'd be pleased to see and also begin the conversation about what do we do to continue using this building for the next 40 or 50 years. And so what I'm thinking is, a first step is we need a baseline. We need to understand the health and potential issues that are occurring within our own building. We know it's a mid-century 1950s building, that there hasn't been any major renovation in a number of years, and that the plumbing, mechanical, and electrical systems are definitely outdated. I have seen some pictures of what the inside of some of our pipes look like, and I would say it looks like the most clogged artery you've ever seen. So it's very concerning. But I don't want you just to take my word for it, right? So what I've asked is that we go to the professionals and we get some photos, we get some camera inspection, actually have some qualified professionals look at the building and tell us what the issues are. And then it's not within the scope of this work, but one of the reasons I'm thinking about this firm is I really appreciated the financial analysis that I saw from them on value engineering the police project. And so I thought, I think they have some skill that we could use in this building, that after we diagnose what's wrong, they can help us look at what are the costs to replace the building, find another piece of property, build brand new, and compare that to what would it cost to stay here. So that's my thought, is this is like a first phase. Let's investigate the conditions within this existing building. Let me bring that information to you, and then hopefully as a next step, I would ask you, let's do a financial analysis on where we go from there.
Thank you. In other words, Dr. Blanks, I think what she's suggesting is that we get a physical examination on the health of our building.
Yes, I have a question. So, kind of sounds like a home inspection, except on a, commercial property, public building. $21,700. I'm sure this isn't the only company that does that. That just seems like a pretty exorbitant amount for somebody to come out and say, yep, it's in bad shape, and a lot of this I think we already know just from what you just said. I'm just not sure, I'm not sold on the value of $21,700 worth of inspection.
They're not just doing an inspection, right? They're doing all this that's in the proposal, which is CAD drawings and
Correct.
360-degree tours, and it's not just a simple home inspection. Is that
Correct.
Home
It's
inspection.
more than a visual inspection.
There's a detailed, actually, a very detailed outline of what they're
what they're
proposing
doing?
to do,
I have one.
which is a rather,
Those clogged artery pipes that you speak of,
It's terrible sounding.
is that where our drinking water is coming out of?
Yes.
Oh.
But we have great water.
Straight water.
We did, we won it. The Duck River,
More importantly, is that what y'all's drinking water
we
is
have won
coming out of?
awards.
The water's great.
Yeah, but until it gets our pipes.
Yeah.
So, like,
until-
And the interesting thing that I
Then we
know
blind.
is that what I have been told is that the plumbing is actually laid in the concrete foundation of this building.
oh, gosh.
So I will say that's one of the most important pieces to me of the entire assessment, is that we look at the plumbing, because it's something that you can't visually inspect. We've got to get a camera system in there. As you know from some of the other items, we have relied on TUA when we need video inspection of storm pipe and things like that. We don't have these systems ourselves.
My only concern is there a way to do this? I understand, home inspections have gotten really intricate now. Y'all would be shocked. But as far as like the camera systems and the going, like I get it. Like we might need a plumber and we might need to look at this. I was just concerned. It just seemed like a pretty large amount of money for that service.
And that's hard for me to say. I understand that might be your perception. I guess I work with engineering firms and I see their bills, and I was actually surprised at how low the cost was.
Really?
They charge high per hour fees as professionals, and I do think it's gonna take a significant amount of time to do this evaluation. Part of, I'm sure, what we're paying for is their overhead, their access to the systems that provide these CAD drawings and 360-degree interactive virtual tour and those kind of things. But, I certainly could have invited them, if that would be a next step, to give you a presentation about these services that they provide, if that's something you'd want to see.
Can I ask a small question that's just a definition question? It's simple. What is it Revit or Revit mean?
Revit.
What does that mean?
Revit's a software firm for
Okay.
building CAD drawings.
Oh, it's the software for, okay, perfect. That was my question. I love CAD.
It's not only the water we drink, but it's the air we breathe, because we're doing inspection through the HVAC systems as well, so it's our health that we're,
I didn't have a cough till I became an alderman.
Oh.
And Mayor, would you agree, I think the purpose of the as-built drawings, the importance of that is that we are in a building that, for instance, again, I know what I've heard from staff about the ceiling. When we hired an IT manager and he began running lines and pulling wire, he said, we have 3 ceilings up there. And who knows how many times different systems have been patched or changed. And so the as-built is what it actually is today versus, I'm sure we have plans from 1954, but that's not really what exists in the building today. So it'll be beneficial to have that moving into developing specifications if you want to repair this building.
Very good. Anyway, is there any further discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Yes.
Vote is 6-1, motion carries.
And I'll just say thank you, and I will certainly invite them with the results of the assessment to show what they can visually to you.
Yeah, I want to see it all. Everything fancy that comes with it.
At this time, we will go back to the consent agenda for item number 2112. This is for the approval of the purchase of 30 portable radios, completing the full replacement program for public safety in the amounts of $18,508.50. That's at state contract pricing from Communications Evolutions for the Telhoma Police and Telhoma Fire Department. Okay, hear a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second.
McGee.
Zenobia, second. Thanks. Made the motion.
This
Okay, discussion?
this is the one I had questions about, and Chief, sorry, I'm sure a lot of people have heard the same call, have gotten the same call as I have too. And I'd love to know specifically why Communications Evolutions. Yes. If that's okay.
Let me ask
yeah.
Chief, come to Chief 15. I think he can answer this question probably better than anyone in the room.
I hope so, Mayor, thank you. We did request 30 portable radios for police and fire, and we are just doing it using the state contract pricing. The only company that is, the closest company to us that is certified to sell professional grade radios would be Communication Evolutions out of McMinnville, Tennessee. They're the only licensed Motorola dealer that can sell a professional grade radio, which is what we require.
Is that what the difference is, the professional grade?
As opposed to, there's a different grades of radios. There's a commercial / business grade, like an amusement park might use, Disney World, where there's not typically lives on the line. And then there's a professional grade that requires a lot more certifications to even work on the radios, to program them, specific software. And with that comes a lot of training, a lot more expense. So not all Motorola dealers are certified to sell professional grade.
Yes, I think where she's going with this, and this speaks to the point that was brought up at the last meeting, and then Mr. Shellstrup that owns communications specialist here in Telehoma, it's my understanding that your office reached out to him for a quote on these radios?
We did.
Did you receive that quote?
We received a quote, but I've done personally some research as well as talking to Motorola partners, and he is not authorized to sell the professional grade radios.
Mr. Mayor, I received an email today that says that to the opposite, that he got his approval to sell those exact radios. And Motorola sent him something in which he sent me saying he is allowed to sell those radios. So I do think it might be important for us to investigate that further, because if he can meet the state contract pricing and still sell those same radios, I'm not sure that it's appropriate for us to vote on this. So I'm going to make a motion to postpone this until the next meeting. Just because I want to make sure we've done due diligence, and that way, if that individual cannot sell these radios, I've personally told him that You know, obviously, we need what we need, and if you can't sell it, we've got to go where we can get what you guys need, you know, and we can't.
Point of order, she makes the motion to postpone.
Let's act on the motion that we have on the floor.
Yes.
We'll act on the motion that we have on the floor. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion before we vote on this motion on the floor?
Are we voting on her motion to postpone?
Motion to postpone, yes.
And do we have a second?
You don't need a second for
Okay.
B?
Is there discussion?
I don't think there's a
I
discussion
would,
now, but
just so I'm clear, we are voting for Alderman Almacher's
Motion to
Motion to
postpone.
postpone.
Yes, so that we can investigate
If that fails,
further.
then we
Okay.
can continue discussion, if that fails.
Chief Shasteen, would postponing this vote put anybody in any sort of harm or danger? Or is this something that you need right now, or would a postpone?
I do think we would
Sure.
like to have more discussion on this,
Yes,
if we're
tonight, if
allowed to,
possible.
but
Okay.
Call the
think-
question.
Oh,
if you have a motion and a second to postpone, I think that you have to stop
I don't think
discussion.
we've got the
Do
second.
you have to have a second question? Yeah.
Postpone.
Yes.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. I don't think we have a second.
I'll second that. So we can,
You seconded,
yes, to Alderman
Motion.
Almacher's.
Now can we discuss, since we got a second?
Not on a postpone.
I'm sorry, maybe I did that prematurely, my
Yeah.
bad.
You can
So
withdraw your
if we
motion,
decline the
so we can
postpone,
discuss
then
it
we
more.
can discuss,
Yeah, I've
and
got a
then vote to
representative here.
postpone.
if we decline the postpone and discuss, can we then go back to
Postponing it if we
postponing?
want to, yes.
I want to withdraw my motion to postpone.
Oh,
right
there
now.
we go.
Okay, now, are we better? Let's discuss for just a minute, and then I may throw it back out.
So, in the email I received, it did not say that it was professional grade. I'm
Okay.
reading it right now.
Okay. I don't think it did say anything, but it didn't specify whether or not it was professional grade, but I'm curious to know if it is in fact, the exact radio, if it is professional grade. And obviously, if it's not, we definitely want to stick with what you have. We just want to make sure that we aren't undermining a local business.
And that's why I thought it was important for Chief Shasteen to invite Communications Evolution to attend this meeting and have them hopefully put a final answer to this and explain if they are a sole source provider of these radios, can you speak to why and provide evidence of that to us?
Are they here?
I do have a Jeff with Communication Evolutions. I would say before, if y'all want to ask him questions, that would be fine. It's not only purchasing the radios, it's the serviceability of the radios, it's the programming of the radios, it's the warranty that would or would not be provided if we don't buy them from, yes, sir.
Did you not tell us this 2 weeks ago?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm not in the,
Yes,
warp
sir.
speed time.
Deja vu.
Okay, I was just,
Yeah, and Communication Evolutions is also the company that does all the work solely for the 911 system in Coffee County. They do all the radio work, they do all the tower work for the communications. That Mr. Barry knows that.
That is a true statement.
And this is probably 5 years ago, whatever, we went through the same thing.
Yes, sir.
I asked the same questions
Yes,
that
sir.
you're asking tonight, and I thought, I want to shop Telhoma and provide this
Yes, sir.
to Buddy if we can, but if he cannot provide the service and the stuff to back it up, then we need to go with what our captain has researched.
Mr. Blanks, it's my understanding that there's been some changes within that organization, and they are able to provide more than they were 5 years ago, according to Mr. Shelter and his conversations with us. So that's why I think there have been some changes. That's the reason it's coming back around.
I asked specifically about servicing, and I actually asked if he would attend as well to just
Yeah,
get it
I-
out. And I specifically asked about servicing, and the answer that I got was they send it back to manufacturer.
yes, that's what I got
So the
too.
responsiveness will be different.
But
Very,
no,
very
what
different.
he actually said was that he would have extra on hand.
That he would buy a couple of extra.
Programmed, and so they would never be without, obviously if there was the warranty and everything, they could come in and say, hey, I've got a problem with this one, hand in that one, and they could hand another one. So if you're not, giving up any type of service, I think that, I don't know that that's a reason that he has to send them out if there's something wrong.
I have not been privy to any emails from the local distributor. Has he been emailing other people on the board?
Yes.
Yes.
I have received them.
He contacted me as well.
3, but not the majority of
No.
us. Is it Mr. Shellstrop Buddy, or is it his son?
He has not reached out to me at all,
His son, Chad.
or anyone in my
Yeah.
office.
But you reached out to him.
I had my assistant, my deputy chief reach out for a quote because of the last meeting. I didn't want to cut him out of an opportunity. And then I have recently, since then, found out, as I thought, he is not an authorized dealer to sell professional grade radios. Now, he may have got some kind of one-time allowance to sell these radios that I'm not aware of. As of today at lunch, Motorola had not received anything across their desk where anybody was asking for a one-time allowance.
Well,
They
we
had not
received
that.
an email saying that he was an authorized Motorola dealer for those specific radios, and it's my understanding that he was $3,000 cheaper than your competitor on the price of those radios.
That's incorrect. It was $1,000.
1,000.
It was
It's
$1,000?
cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody
But
told
we
me.
do not know if it included programming. There was nothing mentioned about a warranty. If we buy a professional grade radio from an unauthorized, untrained dealer, if anything's wrong with those radios, Motorola
Yeah.
will not provide the warranty. They will not back them up.
And I'm going to say this, if you're comfortable using somebody because you have a relationship with them, and I know it's not great because it's not in town, but in the end, my concern is making sure that our fire department and our police department feel comfortable with this equipment they have.
Yes.
The company, Communication Evolutions, handles all the radio repairs, installs for the police department as well as the fire department, and work with the dispatchers and the director of the 911 center to make sure the frequencies match, the PO tones are right, and everything works. If it doesn't, they're Johnny on the spot to fix it.
So if we wait 2 weeks to make sure we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges, will everybody on the board be happy?
Yeah, but can we hear what,
I would like to hear from
Of course.
Communications.
well, since he's here, but
Yeah,
he doesn't
I'm
have to
supposed to
come.
making him come back again.
Yeah.
Okay, what would you like to hear? Well, I mean, the company's been there for 47 years, okay?
And you're out of,
We're out of McMinnville, Tennessee,
okay.
okay? We have 6 certified trained technicians, which takes a lot of hours, a lot of money to get them trained. If Richard has a problem within the next 24 to 48 hours, or if it's overnight, we have technicians that are on call 24 hours a day. And it's all to do about public safety, okay? People's lives are in danger, so anyway, we just, we do them in the police department. And like he said, we're certified dealer, professional and commercial. I deliver Richard his radios, I come pick them up, get them fixed, bring them back to him. We install his mobiles in his fire trucks, same as police officers do in their vehicles. So, other than that,
They
you
must
have
be
any
very
more
happy with their
questions?
service, very happy
Yes,
with their
sir.
service,
Can
though.
you explain the difference between, so there is a difference between professional and commercial?
Yes, there is.
That's,
So if he's authorized to sell commercial, that's completely different from being authorized to sell professional.
Professional.
which is,
yeah.
the
Which
email
is
says
a lower
commercial.
tier.
It says
He's
Commercial's a
commercial.
authorized
lower
for
tier.
commercial
Yeah.
versus the professional. So he's
Yeah.
not.
There we go.
Thank
Of
you.
course, it's a lot
Well, I'm
lower
not-
price too, but it's a
Yeah.
lower tier. It doesn't do nearly the things that a professional grade radio does.
So, I would say that I think, you know, obviously the relationship is great, and I'm a little disappointed that Mr. Shellstrop, I think he was invited, I think you just said you invited him, I know I invited him. Rupa, I don't know if you had a conversation with him about attending. I'm a little disappointed that he's not here, but I do think it's important for us to make sure, like Mr. Blank said, Alderman Blank said, that we're comparing apples to apples. And I want to invite, if Mr. Shellstrop is watching this meeting, for him to come and say so himself. And obviously, if he, you know, declines to do so, I think we'll be without option here to obviously continue that.
Oh,
So,
no.
motion to postpone.
Okay, we're back to the, you
Yes.
said you were withdrawing that motion initially. We had the discussion, so we could vote on, discuss the earlier motion. So now you're making the motion to
Yes.
postpone.
Second.
Now I'm making a motion, yes.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. We've had a fair amount of discussion. Are you ready to vote?
Alderman Berry.
He's still, I can look at his face.
Go for it.
Let's do it.
All right, on the roll.
Motion to postpone carries 4-3. We're back to the old 4-3.
I felt pressure.
Can I ask a question to clarify? Is there any specific information that you need from me for the next meeting?
The difference between commercial and professional grade is what it sounds like. Is that correct?
I don't think it even matters if Mr. Shellstrop doesn't show up. I think that this is like an opportunity for him to come and tell us, we don't know what his business can and can't do.
Well-
He's told us that there's been some changes. I know 2 or 3 of us, and so this is that opportunity. And if he can't do so, then, you know, I think it's only fair that we continue to operate with the great service we're already receiving. We're just going to give that opportunity to a local business if they're able to match that.
Motion to postpone 4-3. Okay, we have one other item that we wanted to bring, put on your discussion that you said you did not want to have a vote on this, it's just a discussion.
Yes, yes. So if I may, I'm going to kind of, it's probably not proper for me to get up, but I have some things I'd like to pass around. May I?
I can pass it for you.
Yes, if you would. So I'm gonna kind of send 3 this way and send 3 that way, and you guys, so basically what I did, Ms. Rogers was kind enough to reach out to several cities, and they pulled their evaluation form. So I have several different models of evaluations that, just for you guys to glance over, I'll shoot those over to, I was just able to get those today, so I'll shoot those over to Ms. Moody to disseminate those to you guys over email or make you hard copies, whichever you prefer. But those are just sample evaluation tools that other cities across the region, across Tennessee use, and how they evaluate their city administrators and their city managers. And then also, she gave me what's called a handbook for evaluating the city manager, and then an article that I thought was really interesting. And so if you don't mind, I'd like to just read the intro to that article as to why this is important, and then the phases that they say is how you create a systematic approach to this performance evaluation process. And so,
Point of order.
yes.
We didn't vote to add this to the agenda. And it's not that I don't want to have the discussion, but we didn't vote to add it. And it feels like it'd be more appropriate to either vote to have it or to give consensus to have a study session where we can actually set up time to sit down and
Well,
discuss this. So I'd like to make a motion that, I think we need to make a motion, but we can't discuss it without having it on the agenda. But I would like to ask, I guess, that we have consensus, check the board consensus and schedule a study session for this.
I think that's what, I think this is a study session.
No, no.
Well,
Study sessions are,
I thought this,
a discussion.
Study sessions have to be scheduled.
correct.
Yes.
At a board meeting, you have to schedule the next meeting for a study session after the next board meeting.
So I tend to agree. I think it's important for us to have a study session, but this discussion, I think I just wanted to do this to introduce the idea and just give kind of an overview and leave you guys with something to think about moving forward towards a study session for more detail.
Okay.
I would ask that we ask to have it added to do it properly, add it to an agenda. And get a
I
second.
did ask to add this to the agenda. I asked Ms. Moody on last Tuesday to add this to this agenda. And I was
I think
kind
we're
of
waiting on a
denied that.
motion.
We're waiting on a motion, that's what we're waiting on.
Are you making a motion to add this to have a study session after our next board meeting? Alderman Berry.
I make a motion that we let Jenna do an introduction, time box it at 5 minutes, and then we have a vote on whether or not we want to do a study session.
I'll second the motion. Is that teamwork, you guys?
We have a motion and a second. You want to discuss it before we vote?
Well, I want to discuss it a little bit. You know, the normal order of business is to have these things, you know, we need to have orderly how this is done. And, you know, my stomach's growling and other people's stomachs growling. That's not to say that what we're doing is not important and we need to take time, but we can sort of get caught up in the minutia here, even though this is important, but it needs to follow the proper procedures. Now, you know, if she asked for that to be on a study session or whatever, you know, I don't know, but, we need to, I don't want to spend the rest of my alderman career, you know, back and forth, you know, is a study session, you know. We've always been, or not always is a broad term, a lot of times we're very open about, you know, allowing things a little bit of latitude, and we've done that here tonight. But, you know, when things get contentious, then you get your Robert's Rules of Order book out.
Yeah.
And you start really nitpicking. So, you know, I don't mind us having a little bit of discussion, but I think to be more formal, it needs to be in a study session sometime.
So what are we voting on?
We have a motion to have a study session at the end of the next board meeting on discussion on evaluation procedures.
No.
And a 5-minute introduction.
Wait a minute, hold on.
No, no,
I
no.
thought we were.
I
voting on-
I withdraw my motion.
I know.
This isn't on the agenda, we didn't vote to have it on the agenda. I thought that we were the way it was explained in the email is that we were.
If I, Mayor, can I address something? So I tried to prepare all of you in my comments in the email where I shared with you what Ms. Almacher had asked me to share. The procedure that I have seen this board follow, and a couple of you know because you've tried to bring up things in the past that have failed to make it to a study session. So what I have seen is that it's brought up under the board report, which Ms. Almacher tried to bring it up under the board report. Then there needs to be some discussion, as I said, the show of support. Are you supporting for this to become a study session item? I think that for the public and the transparency, the things that I've heard you say, it probably is best if you bring it up for discussion, consensus to put it as a study session, and we discuss it at the next meeting. Because then the public has time to know that you're going to be discussing something and either watch that meeting or attend the meeting and make comments.
May I ask a question?
But there's no hard and fast rule of what you guys can discuss or when you can discuss it.
Right, so why could I not, when I reached out to you last week, why did you not put it on the agenda then when I asked?
Because like I explained to you in my text back, I would discuss it with Mayor Noes, and he asked that we follow the same procedure that we have, which is that we don't allow one of the 7 to commandeer everyone else's time. We don't want to run in 7 directions at the same time. We want to run in one
But
direction.
is it not the Board of Mayor and Aldermen's agenda? Aren't aldermen allowed to add something to?
No, the board is allowed to add it. So that's why you need the board's
Board.
consensus to add it. It's not what one alderman wants added to the agenda. It is the board's agenda. So I think that you did bring it up properly under your board meeting. Mayor Noes directed us to discuss it as the last item on new business. And then I think the proper thing is to discuss or make a motion or however you choose to do it, but we need some direction as to whether you want it on the agenda or not.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we show support for a study session at a date of your choosing.
Second.
Yeah.
Close the vote.
For point of discussion, let me discuss.
Sure.
I will just say that having 6 people in my household, I cannot do study sessions over everything. I understand that this is important, but as far as I know, my personal experiences with evaluations as a teacher and your personal experiences with evaluations as a teacher are absolutely no substitute for personal one-on-one conversations with your superior or with your subordinate. And any conversation I've ever had. So anyway, I'm going to say that I'm going to vote no on this study session, but I just wanted to clarify why.
I'll make a,
I will, real quick, our charter does call for a annual, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, our charter does call for us to do an annual performance evaluation. I will support talking about it. I don't want to just throw one on and say, here, we're going to do one.
So
'cause that's not the right approach.
May I have, so since this is the discussion part and this is that time, may I, if I could have that 5 minutes now to introduce why this is important, since that was what was given to me by Ms. Rogers. So bear with me because I thought, it's not very long, but I thought it was very interesting. There's an article called How Are We Doing? Evaluating the Performance of the Chief Administrator by Margaret S. Carlson from 1997. It says, picture a governing board meeting at a hectic time of year. Perhaps it is budget season and difficult funding decisions loom. Or the members are still recovering from stinging criticism over a hot community issue. Suddenly someone says, hey, didn't we say last year that we were going to evaluate the manager around this time? Other members groan inwardly as they envision yet another series of meetings and potential conflict with other board members. One member says, everything seems to be going okay. Let's just go ahead and decide on a salary increase now. Is an evaluation really that important? Yes, evaluating the performance of the chief administrative officer, whether the title is city manager, city administrator, local government manager, health director, school superintendent, is critically important. In recent years, jurisdictions increasingly have recognized the importance of a useful performance evaluation system to the overall effectiveness of their organization. They have taken steps to improve their methods of evaluating. And then it goes on, and I'm just going to skip to it. It says that the steps in planning and conducting an evaluation process should be 5-fold. 1, agree on the purpose of an evaluation. 2, agree on what the board expects of the manager or the person to be evaluated. Agree on the frequency and timing of the evaluation. Agree on who will be involved. And then agree on an evaluation form to be used. Hence is why I passed those around, and I feel like it's important for you guys to have some time and get a copy of those to look at. But you know, this individual is in a unique position to this organization. They serve at the pleasure of the board. They may frequently receive conflicting messages about priorities and direction from board members. So it's vital for managers to get regular, accurate feedback about whether they are meeting the expectations of the board. But it is unlikely that an organization will have a useful process in place to get that information in the absence of a well-conceived, systematic performance evaluation system.
Call the question.
I'm not there yet.
motion to have a study session after next board meeting carries 5-2.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Going to beer garden.
Hold on a second. Sorry. Gary, well, no, I'm not ready yet.
Tell me when.
I'm still ready.
Oh, we have to vote on-
Blackwell, Blanks, sorry, Blackwell, Blanks, McGee, sorry, Barry, Almacher. A motion to adjourn was done by Barry and seconded by Almacher. Please vote on motion to adjourn.
Everyone, please.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I still didn't. What the heck?
Motion, wait. Motion to adjourn, please vote. All right, here we go.
Push it like 4 times to hear it.
Okay, we'll call to order the board of the here meeting. Are there any public comments from the, hearing none, we'll go to the consent agenda. That's the minutes of our October 12th meeting from the Board of Mayor and Alderman.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion second. Call the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your turn.
Wait,
passes
we know
7-0.
6-0.
Oh, sorry.
Let's try that again. Motion for the minutes. Approve the minutes. Okay, here we go. 7 up there, yes.
No old business and new business. Okay, sorry to keep you folks waiting, but we have an agenda item number 20, Beer Board 29, beer application for on-premises permit for a restaurant, Raphael's Pizzeria and Restaurant located at 1406 North Jackson Street, Suite 500. Francisco Cruz is the owner and will be the local manager in charge of beer sales. Consider approval subject to fire inspection. Is that fire inspection been made? We do have the fire
The
inspection.
fire
approved.
inspection has been made and they passed, so.
Ms. Cruz, welcome to our board.
Hello.
Have you sold beer previously?
Not that location, I haven't. Or
Well-
do you mean like
At a previous location?
as a worker or as a business owner?
As a business owner, have you sold
sir,
beer
I
before?
haven't.
Have you read all the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in Telhoma?
Yes, sir.
And do you understand those rules?
Yes, sir.
What is the most important thing in those rules?
They're all important. Not to sell beer under any minors, to any minors under the age of 21.
If that's the most important thing, what do you have in place to ensure that you do not sell to underage persons?
Well, I'm the business owner, so I need to make sure that the laws are followed.
And what do you have in place to ensure that those laws are followed is my question.
I will be training my employees and make sure they ask for ID.
How do you check IDs?
Check their birth date.
How do you check for age?
Look at the year, the month, the day, and the year.
What hours of sale can you sell beer?
During the week, Monday through Saturday, you cannot sell from 3 a.m. till 8 a.m. And then on Sunday, 3 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Okay,
Don't know any of that.
welcome. When is your pizzeria going to be open?
It is open already.
But you're not selling beer yet?
No, sir.
Okay, are you anxious to sell beer?
A little bit.
A little bit. Are you apprehensive about your ability to follow all the rules?
No, I'm not
Okay,
apprehensive.
do you understand the penalties for not following the rules?
I do.
Okay, your beer license would be revoked.
I understand.
Okay, does the board have any questions for Ms. Cruz?
What's on your close tonight?
At 9.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Any discussion on the board? All for the vote?
Just the yelling. I'm off her, okay.
Thank you.
Motion passes 7-0. Max, welcome to Telehoma, and I hope your beer sales do well.
Thank you.
Motion to
Let's get a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
And
Second.
second. You got it? No discussion, vote to approve.